The gravel crunches under Father Marcus's worn boots as he approaches the Church of Hollow's End. Something is wrong. He can feel it in his bones, in the way the air seems too still, too heavy. The building looms against the twilight sky, its stone facade pitted and stained with age, but it's the silence that unnerves him most. No birds, no wind, nothing. He's been a priest for 12 years, though calling himself that feels like a lie now. The collar around his neck is just fabric. The words he speaks on Sundays are just sounds. Somewhere along the way, between the unanswered prayers and the empty rituals, God stopped feeling real, if he ever was. Marcus pulls out his phone, squinting at the screen. No signal, of course. The bishop said this place was remote, a quiet posting for a priest who needed time to reflect. What the bishop didn't say was that Hollow's End was dying. 7 families left in a village that once housed hundreds. The last priest, Father Thomas, had served here for 43 years before dying alone in the rectory 3 weeks ago. Perfect, Marcus mutters, pocketing the phone. He pushes open the heavy wooden doors. They groan on rusted hinges, the sound echoing into the cavernous space beyond. Inside, the air is thick with dust and the smell of old wood and something else. Something sweet and rotten, like flowers left too long in a vase. Marcus walks down the center aisle, his footsteps echoing in the empty space. The pews stretch before him like the ribs of some great dead beast. He counts them, 20 rows on each side. Enough seating for 200 people, maybe more, for a village of 7 families. The stained glass windows are dark, their colors muted in the fading light. He can barely make out the images. Saints, he assumes. Martyrs, the usual iconography. But as he looks closer, something seems off about them. The faces are turned away. The hands are positioned strangely, fingers bent at unnatural angles. He shakes his head, just tired, just seeing things. The altar is simple, wooden bare. A crucifix hangs above it, but the Christ figure's head is bowed so low that Marcus can't see its face. He approaches slowly, then notices something on the floor behind the altar. Scratches, deep grooves in the stone forming patterns, circles within circles, symbols he doesn't recognize. His heart begins to beat faster. He turns and enters the sacristy, a small room behind the altar. Cobwebs hang in the corners like lace curtains. A wooden cabinet stands against one wall, its doors hanging open. Inside, vestments hang like shed skins. Green, white, purple, red, the colors of the liturgical calendar. But on the table in the center of the room sits something that doesn't belong. A hymnal. Ornate, leather-bound, the cover is embossed with patterns that seem to shift in the dim light. Marcus steps closer, drawn to it despite himself. The leather is warm to the touch, too warm, as if someone has just been holding it. He picks it up, it's heavy, heavier than it should be. He thumbs through the yellowed pages and his breath catches in his throat. The hymns have titles, but not like any he's ever seen. Hymn to the Keeper of Locked Doors. Aria for the Thirsty Earth. Vespers of the Worm Beneath. Canticle of the Hollowed Throne. Litany for the Sleeper in the Stones. His hands begin to tremble. What kind of parish was this? What kind of priest was Father Thomas? Marcus finds a page near the middle. The musical notation looks wrong. The notes climb and descend in patterns that make his eyes hurt to follow. But below the staff there are words. Latin, he thinks at first, but no, it's something older, something that predates Latin. Except for one single line in English. His finger traces the text, and without thinking, without meaning to, he reads it aloud. In darkness we gather, in silence we feed, the sleeping one stirs not, if we sing as decreed. The moment the words leave his lips, something happens. Every candle in the church ignites at once. The flames leap high, far higher than they should, licking at the air with hungry tongues. They burn in complete silence. No crackle, no hiss, just pure, terrible light. Then they gutter violently, all together, as if something massive has passed through the room, drawing all the air with it. Shadows race across the walls, forming shapes that Marcus's mind refuses to process. Things with too many limbs, things with mouths where mouths shouldn't be. The flames settle, the church falls silent again. Marcus drops the hymnal with a sharp intake of breath. It hits the floor with a sound like a body falling. He backs toward the door, his heart hammering so hard he can feel it in his throat, in his temples, behind his eyes. His hands shake as he grabs the door frame. Just old wiring, he whispers to himself. Just old wiring. Gas pockets in old candles. Something natural, something explainable. But he doesn't believe it. He runs across the overgrown yard to the rectory, fumbles with the key and locks himself inside. The house is cold, damp, it smells like mold and old cooking grease. He doesn't turn on the lights. He just stands there in the darkness, breathing, trying to calm down. On the kitchen table, he finds a note. The handwriting is shaky but legible. Father Marcus, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. The cabinet in my study has what you need to know. The key is under the statue of Saint Anthony in the church. God forgive me for leaving you this burden. There was no one else. Father Thomas. Marcus crumples the note in his fist. Anger rises in him, hot and sudden. What burden? What is he talking about? But he doesn't go back to the church. Not tonight, not in the dark. That first night, Marcus lies awake in the rectory bed, staring at the ceiling. The mattress is lumpy. The sheets smell musty, but it's not discomfort keeping him awake. It's the silence, the absolute, suffocating silence. No cars in the distance, no dogs barking, no wind rattling the windows, nothing. And then, at exactly 3:03 in the morning, a new sound joins the silence. The unmistakable creak of wooden pews. Marcus sits bolt upright in bed, his heart already racing. He holds his breath, listening. Another creak, then another, the sound of weight shifting, of many people moving, but moving in perfect unison. Someone is in the church. He throws off the covers and crosses to the window. From here, he can see the church across the yard. The doors are closed. No light shows in the windows, but he can hear it, that slow, rhythmic creaking. He grabs his flashlight from the bedside table and pulls on his pants and shirt. His hands shake as he laces his boots. He should call someone, the police, the bishop, anyone. But there's no signal, and somehow he knows they wouldn't come anyway. This is his problem now, his burden. Marcus crosses the overgrown yard, wet grass soaking his boots. The church doors are unlocked just as he left them. He pushes inside, the flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The beam sweeps across empty pews. Nothing, no one. But the air feels different, warmer, as if the space has only just been vacated, and there's a smell. Incense maybe, but wrong, too sweet, sickly sweet. He walks down the aisle, the flashlight beam dancing ahead of him. His footsteps sound too loud in the silence. He reaches the front pew and stops. On the seat, there's a damp spot, as if someone has been sitting there, sweating. He touches it, his fingers come away wet. Marcus spins around, the flashlight beam sweeping wildly across the church. Nothing. The pews are empty. The doors are closed. He's alone. But he doesn't feel alone. On the second night, Marcus doesn't even try to sleep. He sits in the back pew of the church at 2:30 in the morning, lights off, flashlight in his lap, waiting. His rational mind tells him he imagined it. Stress, exhaustion, the power of suggestion after reading that disturbing hymnal. But another part of him, a deeper part, knows better. At 2:58, the temperature drops. Marcus can see his breath suddenly, white clouds in the darkness. At 3:01, he hears footsteps outside, many footsteps, shuffling, dragging. At 3:02, the doors open. And they come in. They file through the entrance silently. Men, women, even children. They wear simple clothes, old-fashioned. Styles from the 1930s, maybe earlier. Their movements are synchronized in a way that makes Marcus's skin crawl. All their heads bowed, all their steps in time. They pass through the shaft of moonlight streaming from the high windows, and that's when Marcus sees their faces. Or rather, where their faces should be. Their features are there, eyes, noses, mouths, but they're wrong, blurred, smudged like wet paint dragged by a careless hand. Their eyes don't quite focus, their mouths don't quite open. It's as if someone tried to erase them but couldn't quite finish the job. They fill the pews, row by row, slow and methodical. They sit, they fold their ruined hands in their laps. And then they turn their smudged faces toward the altar. And they wait. Marcus's flashlight slips from his trembling hands. It hits the wooden floor with a sharp crack that echoes through the church like a gunshot. Every head turns toward him at once. 30 heads, 40, maybe more, all turning in perfect unison. All those ruined faces looking at him with eyes that don't quite see. Marcus doesn't remember standing up, doesn't remember running, but suddenly he's outside, the night air cold on his face, his lungs burning, sprinting across the yard to the rectory. He slams the door behind him and locks it, throws the deadbolt, drags a chair under the handle. He presses his back against the door, sliding down to sit on the floor, breathing in ragged gasps. They're not human. Whatever they are, they're not human. The next morning, Marcus tears through the rectory's study like a man possessed. Boxes of papers, ledgers, photographs. He finds yellowed images of the church from decades ago. The congregation packed in, real people with real faces, smiling at the camera. But in some of the older photos, the ones from the 1800s maybe, the faces are strange, not quite clear, as if they moved during the long exposure. He finds Father Thomas's personal effects in a trunk under the desk. Prayer books, rosaries, a pipe, reading glasses, and tucked behind a loose board in the closet, a leather journal. Marcus carries it to the kitchen table and opens it. The handwriting is neat, precise, the kind of handwriting they don't teach anymore. He reads by the weak morning light filtering through the dirty windows. May 3rd, 1978. I am not a priest. I need to confess this first, to commit it to paper so there is some record of the truth. I am not a priest. I never was ordained. I am a choir master. That is the only title that matters in Hollow's End. Marcus's mouth goes dry. He keeps reading. The entity beneath Hollow's End is older than Christianity, older than Rome. The people who first settled this valley knew about it, worshipped it, fed it, not with blood or flesh, but with something more subtle, more insidious, structure, ritual, worship shaped in very specific forms. The hymnal contains the liturgy it demands. Each night at the hour of its deepest sleep, 3:03 in the morning, the song must be sung. The melody must be exact. The rhythm must not falter. If the ritual is performed correctly, the entity remains asleep, content, dreaming its ancient dreams. But if the melody falters, if the rhythm breaks, if even one night passes in silence, it will wake. Marcus turns the page with shaking hands. I learned this from Father Sullivan, who learned it from Father Callahan, who learned it from Reverend Blackwood, stretching back 200 years or more, an unbroken chain of choir masters, each one passing the burden to the next. Father Sullivan warned me. He showed me what happens when the ritual is not performed. He took me down into the cellar beneath the church. I still have nightmares about what I saw there. Marcus stops reading, looks up at the ceiling. There's a cellar beneath the church. He forces himself to keep reading. The previous choirmaster, Reverend Blackwood, he failed. His voice gave out. Illness, I think. He tried to continue, tried to sing through the pain, but on the third night he couldn't. His voice broke. The entity woke. It took the village, not quickly, not all at once. Over 3 days it pulled them down, 27 people. Men, women, children. It opened the earth and dragged them into the stones. We found them in the cellar, what was left of them. Their mouths were full of earth. Their eyes were gone. And the worst part, Father Sullivan said, the worst part was that they were still breathing, down there in the dark, in the earth, still alive somehow, still aware. We had to bury the cellar, seal it with concrete and prayer. Father Sullivan performed the ritual that very night, re-establishing the pact. The entity went back to sleep. But the village never recovered. People left. The ones who remained, they never spoke of it, but they knew. On some level, they all knew. Marcus feels sick. He wants to stop reading, but he can't. The shadow congregation is not human. They are echoes, impressions left by those who worshipped here before the pact. Residual energy, Father Sullivan called it. Hauntings. They remember the ritual even in death. They will come at 3:03. They will sit in the pews. They will wait for the choir master to sing. If you sing, they are content. They fade with the dawn. If you don't sing, the words are underlined 3 times. If you don't sing, they will take you to the cellar themselves. Marcus turns to the final entries. The handwriting becomes shakier, harder to read. January 15th, 2025. My voice is failing. The cancer has spread to my throat. I can barely whisper now. Last night's ritual was agony. I don't know how many more I can perform. January 22nd. I missed a night. I couldn't do it. My voice gave out completely. This morning I woke to find earth on my pillow, in my mouth, in my lungs. It's warning me. February 1st. This is my last entry, my last confession. Whoever comes after me, I am sorry. I tried to find another way. I spent 40 years searching for a way to break the pact, to banish the entity, to free Hollow's End from this curse. There is no way. The entity is too old, too deep, too intertwined with the foundations of this place. The only mercy is that it demands so little. 1 song, 1 ritual, every night at 3:03. I have left the hymnal in the sacristy. The key to my study is under Saint Anthony. In the cabinet, you will find recordings of the ritual. Listen to them. Learn the melody. It must be exact. God forgive me for what I'm leaving you. Or perhaps God has nothing to do with this place anymore. Perhaps he never did. The entry ends there. Marcus sits back in the chair, his mind reeling. This is insane. It has to be. a dying old man's delusions, brain cancer causing hallucinations. But he saw them last night, the shadow congregation. He saw them with his own eyes. Marcus doesn't perform the ritual that night. He refuses. He won't. He can't. He's a priest, even if he doesn't believe anymore, even if God feels like a fairy tale. He took vows. He studied theology. He knows the difference between faith and superstition, between the sacred and the profane. This isn't faith. This is something older, darker, something that has nothing to do with the God he was trained to serve. He stays in the rectory, doors locked, windows shuttered. He hears them come at 3:03, the footsteps, the creaking pews, but he doesn't go to them. He sits at the kitchen table with a bottle of whiskey he found in Father Thomas's pantry and drinks until the sounds stop. The next morning, Marcus ventures into the village proper. He needs to see people, real people. He needs to prove to himself that this place isn't entirely dead. Hollow's End consists of one main street with a handful of houses scattered along it. Most are abandoned, their windows broken, their yards overgrown, but a few show signs of life, smoke from chimneys, cars in driveways. He knocks on the first door, a small cottage with faded blue paint and a sagging porch. An old woman answers. She's tiny, hunched with age, but her eyes are glassy, unfocused. She stares through Marcus as if he isn't there. "Ma'am," he says, "are you all right?" She doesn't respond, doesn't blink, doesn't seem to breathe. Behind her, Marcus can see into the house. An old man sits at a kitchen table, motionless. A younger woman, maybe the old woman's daughter, stands by the sink, staring at the wall, not moving, not blinking. Catatonic, all of them. Marcus backs away from the door. The old woman doesn't close it. She just stands there, staring at nothing. He goes to the next house. The same, a middle-aged man standing in his living room like a statue, eyes open, vacant. The next house, a family, mother, father, 2 children, all of them frozen in place. The children sit at a table with coloring books in front of them, crayons still in their hands, but they don't move, don't color, just stare. Marcus visits every occupied house in the village. 7 families, 23 people total. Every single one of them is catatonic. He runs back to the rectory, his heart pounding. This is real. This is actually happening. Because he didn't perform the ritual, because he refused, the entity is punishing them. Or maybe this is how it feeds, draining the life from the village slowly, keeping them alive but empty, husks. That evening, as the sun sets, Marcus sees them through the rectory window. The shadow congregation. They stand in the mist at the edge of the churchyard. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, more than could possibly fit in the church. They face the rectory, all those smudged faces turned toward him. Waiting. Marcus closes the curtains with shaking hands. He returns to the journal, frantic now. He reads the entries again and again, looking for something he missed, some way out, some loophole. But there isn't one. One passage makes him stop cold. If the song stops, the sleeper in the stones will wake. It will take the village into the earth, not as punishment, not as revenge, as incorporation. The living and the dead alike, pulled down into its endless dream of stone and root, they will become part of it, aware but unable to move, unable to scream, forever. Marcus looks at the clock on the wall, 2:27 in the morning. He has 36 minutes to decide. Let the village die, let the entity take them. It's not his fault. He didn't make this pact. He didn't ask for this burden. Or go to the church, take the pulpit, sing the hymn, fade the demon beneath the stones. Become the choir master. At 2:45 in the morning, Marcus stands before the mirror in Father Thomas's bathroom. His face is gaunt. His eyes are sunken and ringed with dark circles. He looks like a man who hasn't slept in weeks. He looks like a man condemned. Maybe he is. He finds Father Thomas's vestments in the bedroom closet. The chasuble is green, ordinary time. He puts it on with trembling hands. It smells like incense and old sweat. He picks up the hymnal from where he dropped it in the sacristy and walks to the church. The shadow congregation parts as he approaches. They create a path to the doors, standing on either side like an honor guard. They don't look at him. They simply move aside, patient as stone, patient as earth. Inside, they fill the pews behind him. Silent, expectant, the smell of incense is overwhelming now, that sickly sweet rot. Marcus climbs to the pulpit. His legs feel like water. The hymnal lies open before him. He didn't open it. It was closed when he picked it up, but now it's open to a specific page. Litany for the sleeper in the stones. The musical notation swims before his eyes. The notes climb and descend in patterns that hurt to follow, but he can read music. He spent 2 years in seminary choir. He can do this. The clock on the wall reads 3:02. At exactly 3:03, Marcus opens his mouth to sing. But what comes out isn't the hymn. He starts with the melody, that strange, discordant tune that makes his teeth ache, that makes his bones feel loose in his flesh. But over it, he weaves different words. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He sings the 23rd Psalm over the demon's melody. The congregation begins to stir. A low moan rises from the pews, building slowly. Marcus's voice grows stronger. He moves to the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. The moaning becomes a shriek. The shadow figures writhe in the pews. Their smudged faces twist, their mouths open too wide. The candles flicker wildly. The very stones of the church begin to weep. Black oil seeps from the cracks in the walls, dripping down in thick rivulets. The smell is overwhelming, rot and sulfur and something ancient. Marcus isn't singing to the demon. He's singing against it. He's trying to impose his will, his faith, trying to break the pact with the power of Scripture. It's not working. The shrieking reaches a fever pitch. The oil flows faster. It pools on the floor, spreading toward the pulpit. Marcus can feel the church shaking. The floor buckles beneath his feet. And then he hears it. A voice, not from the congregation, from below, from beneath the stones. It speaks one word in a language older than language. The word reverberates through his bones, through his skull. He doesn't understand it with his mind, but his body understands. His blood understands. So the word means no. Marcus's voice breaks. The scripture dies in his throat. In that moment of silence, he understands. The entity doesn't care about Christian prayer. It existed before Christianity. It will exist after. The prayers have no power here. There is only the pact, only the ritual, only the song it demands. Marcus looks down at the hymnal. The pages are glowing now, pulsing with a faint, sickly light. He starts again. This time, he sings the words written on the page. The words in that language he doesn't know but somehow understands. Words that taste like earth and stone on his tongue. In darkness we gather. The shrieking stops. In silence we feed. The congregation settles into the pews, their faces smooth, their hands fold. The sleeping one stirs not. The oil stops flowing, begins to recede. If we sing as decreed. Marcus sings for 37 minutes. The hymn is long, complex, with verses that repeat in strange patterns, with rests that must be held for exact counts, with notes that climb higher than his voice should be able to reach. But he does it, he gets through it. When the last note fades, the candles dim. The congregation remains seated, heads bowed, as the first light of dawn begins to creep through the high windows. Then one by one they fade, like mist burning off in sunlight, they simply cease to be. Marcus collapses against the pulpit, gasping. His throat is raw, his voice is barely a whisper. But it's done. When Marcus stumbles out of the church, the sun is fully risen. The mist has burned away from the village. The air feels lighter somehow, cleaner. He walks through Hollow's End again, knocking on doors. The old woman answers, but this time her eyes focus. She blinks. She smiles uncertainly. "Father," she says, "when did you arrive? I didn't know we were getting a new priest." Behind her, the old man is making coffee. The younger woman is setting the table, moving, talking, alive. Marcus visits every house. The same, they're all awake, all moving, all confused about why they feel like they've lost time, but they're alive, they're human again. They remember nothing. The catatonia has lifted like a bad dream. Marcus returns to the rectory and collapses into bed. He sleeps for 14 hours straight, dreamless, deep, the sleep of the dead. When he wakes, it's evening again. The light is fading. He walks to the church to lock the doors for the night. But they're already open. Inside, the hymnal lies on the pulpit, open to a page Marcus doesn't recognize. The ink looks fresh, still damp, glistening in the candlelight. The title reads, Father Marcus's Processional. His blood runs cold. Beneath the title there are words, instructions. The new choirmaster has been accepted. The pact is renewed. Each night at the hour of deepest sleep, the song must be sung. The melody must not falter. The rhythm must remain true. This is the burden. This is the price. This is forever. Marcus hears a sound behind him and spins around. Nothing, the church is empty. But when he walks to the door and looks out across the churchyard toward the woods, he sees it. At the very edge of the tree line, a single figure, tall, silent, its form is clearer than the others, more defined. It wears a long black coat, a wide-brimmed hat. Its face is smudged like all the others, but as Marcus watches, it raises one hand, beckons. In its other hand, it holds a candle. The flame burns black, not the absence of light, but a flame that radiates darkness instead of illumination. It makes the trees behind it harder to see. It makes the world around it less real. Marcus realizes with creeping horror what has happened. The ritual didn't reject him. It accepted him. The entity beneath Hollow's End tested him. Let him try to break the pact. Let him think he had a choice. And when he failed, when he sang the words it demanded, he became bound, not by force, by consent. He chose this. He is no longer just a priest who lost his faith. He is the choirmaster of Hollow's End. And every night at 3:03 in the morning, the congregation will return. And he will sing, not because he believes, not because he has faith, but because if he stops, the sleeper in the stones will wake, and it will pull them all down into the earth, the living and the dead alike, into its endless dream of stone and root. Forever. The figure in the woods raises its candle higher. The black flame dances, grows, reaches toward the church like a dark tendril. Marcus understands now. The figure is Father Thomas, or what's left of him, bound to the entity even in death, watching, waiting, making sure the new choirmaster performs his duty. All the choirmasters are still here. Sullivan, Callahan, Blackwood, all of them, standing in the woods, holding their black candles, waiting for Marcus to fail. Waiting for him to join them. Marcus closes the church doors. His hands don't shake anymore. There's no point in shaking, no point in fear. Fear is for people who have choices. He has no choices left. Tomorrow night at 3:03 in the morning, he will return to the pulpit. He will open the hymnal, and he will sing. And the night after that, and every night after, for as long as his voice holds out. And when it finally fails, when age or illness takes his ability to perform the ritual, someone else will come, another priest, another fool sent by a bishop who doesn't understand what Hollow's End really is. And the burden will pass, as it has passed for 200 years, as it will pass for 200 more. Marcus walks back to the rectory. Behind him in the woods, more candles ignite, black flames in the darkness, dozens of them, all the choirmasters who came before, all watching, all waiting. He doesn't look back. In the rectory kitchen, he finds a bottle of wine, communion wine, probably. He pours himself a glass and sits at the table. His throat already hurts from singing. By morning, it will be raw. But that's fine. He has all day to rest, all day to prepare. Because at 3:03 in the morning, the congregation will come. And Father Marcus, choirmaster of Hollow's End, will give them what they came for. The song, the ritual, the pact, forever and ever. Amen.